When you're surrounded by your enemies, remember who saves you, remember who defends you, remember that God trips up the enemy. And finally, our fourth point, do not fear. Look at verse 3. Though a host encamp against me, my heart will not fear. Fear is difficult. Fear can paralyze you. You're afraid to live your life because of fear sometimes. You're afraid to die because of fear. You're afraid to do certain things or meet certain people because of fear, anxiety. It cripples us in many, many ways. And David says, and he had every right to be afraid. He is surrounded by his enemies. They're encamped around him. They're basically looking at him and just saying, hey, you got a matter of time. We're about to take you out. And David says, my heart will not fear. It's interesting in the Old Testament, fear can also mean reverence or respect. In fact, Proverbs chapter 1 says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom, right? But that's not how the word is used here. It's actually used as dread. It's the same word used in Genesis chapter 3, verse 10, when Adam is speaking to the Lord, and he says, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. Adam had just plunged all of humanity into sinfulness. And so he was afraid because he broke God's commands. You remember that feeling as a child? Whenever your parents tell you not to do something and you went ahead and did it anyway? Right? I don't know about you, but I had some fear. My dad's a big guy. Trepidation, trembling. You've heard the phrase, just wait till your dad gets home, right? You may not have heard it. I mean, it's probably less common than it used to be, but when I was growing up, it was still there. Fear, that's the fear. It's not a fear of the unknown. It's a fear of the fact that something has been broken, some law, some decree of God's, and we're afraid. David says, you don't have to have that kind of fear because God is for you, not against you. We're no longer talking about breaking God's commands. When we're waiting, when we're ingraining ourselves in the Lord, when we're twisting and grafting ourselves into the true vine, we don't have to be afraid. Our hearts do not have to fear our enemies. We don't have to fear that we're surrounded. Remember your salvation. Remember who saves you. Remember who defends you. God is actively defending us. Remember that God trips up the enemy. He trips up those who come against you. We don't have to fear because we haven't done anything wrong. We're grafting ourselves into God. We're staying close and hiding in our stronghold, who is the Lord. And finally, the last thing, look at it there. Though war rise against me, in spite of this, I shall be confident.